Hi everyone, let's start with first chapter of politics. Chapter 1, Equality. On equality. India is a democracy. In the class 6 book, we looked at the key elements of a democratic government. These include people's participation, the resolution of conflict, and equality and justice. Equality is a key feature of democracy and influences all aspects of its functioning. In this chapter, you will read more about equality, what it is, why it is important in a democracy, and whether or not everyone is equal in India. Let's begin by looking at Kanda's story. So, last year we have learned that India is a democratic country, and also we have learned the key elements of a democratic government. What are they? Yes, these include people's participation, the resolution of conflict, and equality, and also justice. Among these, equality is a key feature of democracy and influences all the aspects of functioning of a democratic government. Okay, now let's go through a story. And you all have to read the story. Anyway, I will give a brief summary about this story. This is a story that describes the life of two people. One is poor and works as a servant. She lives in a clumsy area which is never cleaned, and so her daughter is getting diseases continuously. Whereas other person who is rich and owns a car, both of them waits on a line to cast their votes. But in government hospital, you can see only the poor people standing on the line, as the rich prefer private hospitals. So this is just a story to show the difference in the life of two people. Equal right to vote. The story above begins with Kanda standing in line to cast her vote. Look again at the various people who are standing in the line with her. Kanda recognizes her employer Ashok Jain and Chote Lal, her neighbor. In a democratic country like India, all adults, irrespective of what religion they belong to, how much education they have had, what caste they are, or whether they are rich or poor, are allowed to vote. This, as you have already read in the class 6 book, is called Universal Adult Franchise and is an essential aspect of all democracies. The idea of universal adult franchise is based on the idea of equality because it states that every adult in a country, irrespective of their wealth and the communities she or he belongs to, has one vote. Kanda is excited to vote and happy that she is equal to all of the others because each of them has one vote. So, as we have discussed in the story, it does not mean whether a person is rich or poor, all have to stand in the same line to cast their vote. So here comes a question, what do you mean by universal adult franchise? So in a democratic country like India, all adults, without considering the religion they belong to, or how much educated they are, or to which caste they belong to, or whether they are rich or poor, all are allowed to cast their vote. Okay, and this is known as universal adult franchise. And it is an essential aspect of all democracies. The basic idea regarding the universal adult franchise is every adult in a country, irrespective of their wealth and the communities she or he belongs to, has one vote. Okay, so as we have seen in the story itself, all the people, whether they are rich or poor or whatever caste they belong to or whatever religion they belong to, all have one vote and all have to wait in a line to cast their vote. Okay, so this is what universal adult franchise means. So it is very essential for a democratic country, and even in India we are following this universal adult franchise. Irrespective of all the backgrounds of a person, he or she has the ability to cast their vote. Okay, and only one vote is allowed to all the people. But as her day goes on, Kanda becomes less certain about what this equality really means. What is it that makes Kanda unsure? Let's take a look at a day in her life. She lives in a slum and has a drain behind her house. Her daughter is sick, but she cannot take the day off from work because she needs to borrow money from her employers to take her child to the doctor. Her job as a domestic help tires her out, and finally she ends her day by again standing in a long line. This line in front of the government hospital is unlike the one in the morning because most of the people standing in it are poor. So, as we have discussed about the story, the first line that Kanda was standing was to cast their vote. Both the rich and poor were standing on the same line and was waiting for a long time. But here in the government hospital, all these who are standing in the line was poor. Other kinds of equality. Kanda is one of many people who live in democratic India and who have the right to vote, but whose daily living and working conditions are far from equal. Apart from being poor, people in India experience inequality in different ways. Let us see what this means by reading the two stories given below. Each of these is based on real instances in people's lives and reflects the different kinds of inequalities that exist in India. So our country offers equality to all the people. All are equal before the law. All have the right to vote. But when we take account their daily lives, it will be entirely different to both the poor and rich. So many inequalities are still existing in our country. One of the more common forms of inequality in India is the caste system. If you live in a rural India, your caste identity is something that you probably learned or experienced very young. If you live in urban India, some of you might think that people no longer believe in caste. But just look at these matrimonials shown from a leading English newspaper, and you will see how important the issue of caste continues to be in the minds of highly educated urban Indians. So, one example of inequality is the caste system. Our caste identities are more important when we live in rural areas than in urban areas. Whereas in urban areas, they focus mainly on our education. Okay, this caste system are still existing in our country. The matrimonials that has been given in this English newspaper points out that, isn't it? Even these caste systems are existing in our country. Now let us read a story about the experiences of a Dalit child attending school. You have already read about Dalits in the Class 6 book. Dalit is a term that the so-called lower caste use to address themselves. Dalit means broken, and by using this word, lower castes are pointing to how they were and continue to be seriously discriminated against. Dalit is a term which is used to address the people who belong to lower caste. The term Dalit means broken. So by using this term, the lower caste people are highly discriminated. Isn't it? Yes. Om Prakash Valmiki is a famous Dalit writer. In his autobiography Judan, he writes, "I had to sit away from the others in the class, and that too on the floor. The mat ran out before reaching the spot I sat on. Sometimes I would have to sit way behind everybody, right near the door. Sometimes they would beat me without any reason." When he was in class 4, the headmaster asked Om Prakash to sweep the school and the playground. He writes, "The playground was way large than my small physique could handle, and in cleaning it, my back began to ache. My face was covered with dust. Dust had gone inside my mouth. The other children in my class were studying, and I was sweeping. Headmaster was sitting in his room and watching me. I was not even allowed to get a drink of water. I swept the whole day, from the doors and windows of the school rooms. The eyes of the teachers and the boys saw this spectacle. Om Prakash was made to sweep the school and the playground for the next couple of days, and this only came to an end when his father, who happened to be passing by, saw his son sweeping. He confronted the teachers and then, walking away from the school, holding Om Prakash's hand, he said loudly for all of them to hear, "You are a teacher, so I am leaving now. But remember, this much, master. He will study right here in the school, and not just him, but there will be more coming after him." Om Prakash Valmiki is a famous Dalit writer, and in his autobiography, it is known as a Judan. His autobiography is known as Judan. Okay, in this book, he has written about the discriminations that he has faced during his childhood when he attended the school class. He was not allowed to sit with other students. He sat on the floor. He was asked to sweep the playground and school by his headmaster. When his father came to know about the incident, he took his son out from there. The second story is based on an incident that took place in one of India's largest cities and is common practice in most parts of the country. It is a story about Mr. and Mrs. Ansari, who were looking to rent an apartment in the city. They had the money, and so paying the rent was no problem. They went to a property dealer for help to find a place. The dealer informed them that he knew about quite a few apartments that were available for rent. They visited the first apartment, and the Ansaris liked it very much and decided to take it. However, when the landlady found out their names, she made an excuse about how she could not rent the house to someone who ate meat because the building did not have any non-vegetarian residents. Both the Ansaris and the property dealer were surprised to hear this because they could smell fish being cooked in the neighbor's house. The same excuse was repeated in the second and third apartments. Finally, the property dealer told them that they might want to change their names and called themselves Mr. and Mrs. Kumar. The Ansaris were reluctant to do this and decided to look some more. In the end, it took a whole month of looking at apartments before they found a landlady who was willing to give them a place on rent. So, this story is also indicating discrimination. A couple, Mr. and Mrs. Ansari, were searching for an apartment for rent. But with this name, they didn't get an apartment. Okay, so there's some problem with the names also. Because with this name only, people will understand to which religion or caste they belong to. So, here also we are seeing caste discriminations. So, because these couple belong to a particular caste, they were not allowed to get a apartment for rent. Okay, so this is because the dealer asked them to change the name to Mr. and Mrs. Kumar. So students, we will discuss the remaining portion of the chapter in next video. All of you subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you will get the notification of next video. See you soon. Thank you.